Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Lisa, and I have a few devotionals to share with all of you. The first one is titled Focusing. An amazing fact. Each day you are bombarded with billions of bits of sensory input, most of which you ignore. If you tried to focus on every sound, noise, light, picture, word, smell, and talk coming your way, you'd go crazy. You were created with a special filtering system in your brain called the Reticular Activating System, or RAS, which allows you to focus on what is most important. Imagine yourself walking through a busy airport. There are hundreds of people walking past you, lots of noise from talking, announcements being made over loudspeakers, jet airplanes taking off, lights flashing, little shops advertising their goods, and small restaurants with the smell of food wafting about. How much of this do you notice? Probably not much, especially if you are focused on getting somewhere. Suddenly, over the PA system, your name is announced. Amidst all of that noise and confusion, your brain picks up this one bit of information. How can it do this? Thanks to a bundle of nerves the size of your finger that runs from your upper spinal cord deep into your brainstem, God created you with an internal secretary that helps filter millions of bits of information coming at you at any given moment. The RAS helps you to be awake, to focus, and to set goals. When you decide you need to get to a certain destination, this part of your brain helps keep you on track. It is also tuned into red flags or danger input that catches your attention and protects you. The Lord has given us the ability to learn to focus on what is most important. We are not helpless victims of our environments. We can choose to think about the right things. Paul writes about this when he says, "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." Philippians 4 verse 8. The devil has plenty of stimuli to send your way today. What will you focus on? Those things which ye have both learned, and received, and heard, and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you. Philippians 4 verse 9. And that is the end of that devotional. And the next one I'd like to read out is The Fiery Furnace, and this is part 3, The Golden Image. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Daniel 3 verse 1. Light direct from heaven had been permitted to shine upon King Nebuchadnezzar, and for a little time he was influenced by the fear of God. But a few years of prosperity filled his heart with pride, and he forgot his acknowledgement of the living God. He resumed his idol worship with increased zeal and bigotry. From the treasures obtained in war he made a golden image to represent the one that he had seen in his dream, setting it up in the plain of Dura, and commanding all the rulers and the people to worship it on pain of death. This statue was about 90 feet in height and 9 in breadth, and in the eyes of that idolatrous people it presented a most imposing and majestic appearance. A proclamation was issued calling upon all the officers of the kingdom to assemble at the dedication of the image, and at the sound of the musical instruments to bow down and worship it. Should any fail to do this, they were immediately to be cast into the midst of a burning, fiery furnace. The appointed day has come, and the vast company is assembled, when word is brought to the king that the 3 Hebrews whom he has set over the province of Babylon have refused to worship the image. These are Daniel's 3 companions, who had been called by the king, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Full of rage, the monarch calls them before him, and pointing to the angry furnace, tells them the punishment that will be theirs if they refuse obedience to his will. In vain were the king's threats. He could not turn these noble men from their allegiance to the great ruler of nations. They had learned from the history of their fathers that disobedience to God is dishonor, disaster, and ruin, that the fear of the Lord is not only the beginning of wisdom, but the foundation of all true prosperity. They look with calmness upon the fiery furnace and the idolatrous throng. They have trusted in God, and He will not fail them now. Their answer is respectful but decided. Be it known unto thee, O King, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Daniel 3, verse 18. The proud monarch is surrounded by his great men, the officers of the government, and the army that has conquered nations, and all unite in applauding him as having the wisdom and power of the gods. In the midst of this imposing display stand the 3 youthful Hebrews, steadily persisting in their refusal to obey the king's decree. They had been obedient to the laws of Babylon so far as these did not conflict with the claims of God, but they would not be swayed a hair's breadth from the duty they owed to their Creator. The king's wrath knew no limits. In the very height of his power and glory, to be thus defied by the representatives of a despised and captive race was an insult which his proud spirit could not endure. The fiery furnace had been heated 7 times more than it was wont, and into it were cast the Hebrew exiles. So furious were the flames that the men who cast them in were burned to death. And that's the end of that devotional, and the next one is the fiery furnace, and this is part 4. In the presence of the infinite. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. Daniel 3:24. Suddenly the countenance of the king paled with terror. His eyes were fixed upon the glowing flames, and turning to his lords he said, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? The answer was, True, O king. And now the monarch exclaimed, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. When Christ manifests himself to the children of men, an unseen power speaks to their souls. they feel themselves to be in the presence of the Infinite One. Before His Majesty, kings and nobles tremble and acknowledge that the living God is above every earthly power. With feelings of remorse and shame, the king exclaimed, "Ye servants of the Most High God, come forth." And they obeyed, showing themselves unhurt before that vast multitude, not even the smell of fire being upon their garments. This miracle produced a striking change in the minds of the people. The great golden image, set up with such display, was forgotten. The king published a decree that anyone speaking against the God of these men should be put to death, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. And that is the end of the devotionals. I pray you all have a great evening. God bless each and every one of you, and I will see you either next video or in the air. Bye-bye.